So hello and welcome back to another Improvement Season podcast. It is with me, Pascal, and on the other end, it is Steve Hall. And I think it's exciting times now. Now that you guys listening to that, it will be already over. But Steve and I will be talking about it leading into it, I guess, right? But first and foremost, Steve, how are you doing?
It's really funny. You just said, like, when they're listening to this, that weekend or the weekend coming will have already been said and done. I just got a horrible feeling of like the post-show blues. Already, I'm like, I don't want it to have been done. Like, I want it to just always be there, because I'm really, really looking forward to this weekend. Just the fact that it's just a big show. It's an exciting show. We have our Airbnb booked. We have all like our tanning booked in. This is going to again be my best physique to stage. Like, it's an improvement because I dug since the UK DFBA and filling back out this week. And today was the first time I looked at the physique and I was like, I'm starting to see those improvements that have been made since last time. So that's quite exciting.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, it's to think that it's all going to be over. It kind of, fills me like it's like Christmas and talking about Christmas being over, but you're a kid. Yeah. So I'm good, but I'm really not wanting this to be over. And I guess actually, last time we never, I hope people who have been listening could kind of have guessed that you're going to be competing. I essentially said it a few times without saying it.
It was kind of, it should have been obvious by some point, but it's always like the thing where people are then like, is he or isn't he? Has he just said it through the grapevine, or is it just something that we are misinterpreting?
Yeah.
Right? So
I've had like people ask me.
As if you're watching a TV show and you're just like, is it really going to happen? I don't know.
I've had people ask me after I'd already shared your post. They're like, is Pascal competing? I'm like, did you read the post, or did you see he was wearing posing trunks? I don't know. Like, it's kind of obvious that he was going to be competing at the WNBF.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so happy that I actually ordered at a different brand as well. Because I ordered my posing trunks at Iron Monkey a month ago. I already said it that I just ordered one, right? And up until this point, it hasn't arrived due to I blame Brexit to some extent. Iron Monkey was also very, very late in sending it out, to be honest, though. But yeah, it's stuck now in customs, and it's all due to Brexit.
I hate. We were saying this before. Just customs is just a ball ache. I can still remember when one of my clients, I think he sent it from like Japan. It was like gifted me a really, really nice, like it was like in Japanese writing saying Team Revive Stronger, like love from him. Like it was a hugely nice sentiment. I didn't know what it was. And he sent it and it got stuck in customs and I had to pay like £100 to receive it. And then I received it and it was all smashed. And I was just like, oh man, seriously?
So you paid for something that you couldn't even really enjoy.
Yeah, and then they've broken it as well. It was just like, come on,
By
guys.
the way, shout out to Sam Scappis. He's a fucking idiot. If you're watching this, Sam, I very much appreciate, though, that you're sending us a copy of our own book, right? But you should have declared this as a gift because I needed to pay customs on my own book. It was like 18 euros. And I was just like, do I really want to pay this now? But I didn't want to complain afterwards. But he should have just... So if you're sending something and it's going to be stuck in customs, always declare it as a gift and not a product. Because I had to pay customs on that. God damn.
I didn't
my
know
own
that.
book. And I tried to explain it.
Customs is random at times as well, I swear. Like sometimes... I've got away, like I really want something from like the US or something. I'll get away with it. And then other times I'm like, God damn you. Like, why? This is just doubled the price of what I thought I was going to be paying for this.
Yeah. So now we complained about customs and all that kind of stuff. We wanted to talk about contest prep, right?
Yes. So I guess where would be a good starting point? Well, let's talk about where you're at the moment, because we're at quite different points, which I think is interesting also for the listeners, because they might have heard at least about my prep and been like, Steve clearly likes like a certain style of peaking and that's the only way to peak. And it's certainly not. And you're peaking in a different way because you're a different individual at a different point in your prep. a completely different experience, like getting to stage. Like I've already done, actually for my first show, I didn't really, I mean, actually you're kind of peaking like I did for my first show. But anyway, give the listeners an idea of where you're at, how you're feeling as well. Because interestingly enough, I think a lot of people get to this point and they're questioning themselves even more and more, and they're getting less confident. But you've actually been getting, from what I understand, more and more self-confident, which I think is the best way.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I've talked a little bit about it, about my mentality over the past couple of weeks in the previous improvement, or on the previous improvement season podcasts. And I have gained way more confidence this time around. And it's so funny because we can attack it from many different angles. And sorry for the listeners if I'm now once again, as always, going off on a tangent. Feel free to skip through it then if I'm just like deviating too much again. But it was so funny because I told you that the mantra is always you should have competed as a coach if you want to coach competitors to stage. Now, funny enough, no one is ever thinking about the other way around, what this really means to the coach then himself, right? Because in and for itself, I was always under the opinion that if you are an objective person who has a decent level of empathy, then it doesn't matter whether you've been to stage yourself or not, right? Because a certain level of empathy allows you to probably somewhat empathize of what that individual is going through. That is the skill of empathy, to really have that emotional connection to what they are going through. Maybe not in a sheer physiological sense, but you can somewhat relate to that, right? And for me now, I'm at a point where I have brought a lot of competitors, or not a lot, but a decent amount of competitors to stage, and also then first timers. And for me, I'm now experienced enough where I'm just calm as fuck. And I know what to expect. I know what to do. I know what is about to happen on show day, the ups and downs, the things that people are normally going through. And I'm just super calm and super prepared for that. Right? I knew what I needed to do in order to pose, right? When to practice posing, how to practice posing, in the sense of like not driving myself crazy. You even did a story about this, that so many people are falling victim of going into that all or nothing approach where it's like all bodybuilding and then they are just burning out. And I've noticed it myself with a lot of first-time competitors, where I also needed to ask myself, am I doing something wrong as a coach in the way that I approach it for first-time competitors? And I will probably change the way that I'm doing things in the future with first-time competitors, because nine times out of 10, first-time competitors don't even make it to stage, and I have to then, of course, seek the fault at myself first and foremost. And maybe I try to push them too much. Maybe I try to squeeze out too much of conditioning for the first season. And I think that many people burn out in the process. And for me personally, I know what to expect. I know what to do. Everything that has led to the point where I'm at right now was also a very, very mature approach in regards to nutrition, in regards to the mindset about training, about nutrition as well, about sleep, recovery management, and planning things out, and also then with the show, post-show period and all that kind of stuff, right? So I'm super, super calm at the moment. Of course, I feel lethargic now after having pushed for 4 weeks, like very, very much digging, but also there, I found great value in going through an extended period of time where I had to really, really dig, and going down to 13 to 1500 calories, getting up my step counts to around 15 to 20,000 steps per day, still doing resistance training, still taking care of other responsibilities, taking care of my family, being wary of not letting my environment being negatively impacted by my decisions. It was a very, very, very valuable time for me as a person, but also especially as a coach and as an athlete. And I've gained a lot of confidence due to the knowledge and experience I've gained in such a short amount of time now, but especially seeing myself from the leanest ever, and also that the shape is now starting to really pop out. And it's so funny because Connor just reached out to me here today when I hit the front double biceps, and that was in the gym where I didn't really like try to pose that well. And I even thought that when I took my physique pictures the last time, that my front double biceps was actually, was being turned into one of my strongest poses. And I always thought, and even 4 weeks ago, when I just take a look at my posing or the pictures and the physique 4 weeks ago, I would have still said, like, this is definitely not my best position to be in from the front. And now, because the body fat percentage is coming down and my shape is actually very much getting there, and the physique is very much starting to pop, this has become one of my stronger positions to be in. It's crazy, but this is also then confirming what we always have said in the past when people are asking us for what is their weak body part. You can't really determine that unless you have been at a very, very lean stage, unless it's very much obvious that it's going to be a strong body part of yours, or a weak body part of yours. But for me, I always thought like front shots, the worst. And now it turns out that the front double biceps is probably going to be one of my strongest body shots or shots that I can present as well. So these are my initial thoughts. I know all over the place, but maybe there's some kind of things that you want to pick apart that we then can actually extend upon.
Yeah, I think it's in terms of like as a coach, or rather if you're taking someone to stage, you should have been there and done that to kind of earn the right to do it. Yes and no, in my opinion, like, because there are enough people who are awful coaches who have been to stage, and there are enough people who have been to stage and they now consider themselves a coach. That is not a prerequisite to being a coach. Yeah. The things to being a coach, more important, are, like you said, the people skills, communication, empathy, a baseline of knowledge, experience. The person with all of that, who could have been Pascal, would have been a far superior coach to that one guy who took it to stage and got quite lean, didn't really know what he was doing, and then decided to coach people. The ideal scenario, or rather a kind of sprinkles on the cake of where you were as a coach, is now you'll have been to stage. And now you have had those very acute experiences, those very niche experiences like show day. You specifically have gone through it. You've experienced that. And like every single time you do it, you'll get better and better. But it wasn't a prerequisite. It's kind of like a bonus now. And to have pushed yourself in the journey you've gone through is particularly interesting because, yeah, you've had to have really gone to the depths and you've had to manage that in your life and learn tools to get through that. It's kind of like, I probably am not as good a person to help someone through a binge eating kind of patterns as you are, because I haven't gone through that. I kind of have a baseline of knowledge surrounding that, but going through it and recovering from it is kind of a bit different. So I think the fact you've gone through that is going to put you in such a strong position now going forward as a coach, which is a big reason, I presume for you, why you wanted to go to stage was just to be a better coach and for yourself. But every time I compete, I learn new things and I'm like, yeah, I'm better.
Yeah, I never really thought about it, at least now this time, to do it for then business reasons. This is more like,
oh yeah, you haven't
honestly, this
reap the rewards of business because you haven't been like sharing all these like shredded shots. And
this time it was really just for me, and this is still going to be the case when I'm there on show day and stepping up on stage. And the beauty is that many people were already asking me like, how do you feel about stepping on stage, and good luck, all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, buddy, I know where this is coming from, but don't wish me luck. I'm not hoping to place somewhere, or I don't have any kind of expectations. I don't need luck because I'm just doing it for myself. So why do I need luck in that kind of regard?
I need luck. Give me the luck.
Yeah, definitely. No, definitely. If you have some expectations or so, then sure. Then I know where this is coming from. But for me, it's just I participate there. I'm having a good time. And for me, when someone is saying like enjoy the show, I will, right? Because this is why I'm doing it this time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I'm having any kind of expectations. And this is also where I then posted my physique updates. There was someone then asking me the question of like, why am I even doing this? everything, like bodybuilding, if I can't be the very best? And I was just like thinking, do you really always have to be the very best in order to enjoy something or pursue something? Absolutely not. There will always probably be someone who's better than you, no matter what it is in life. So if you take this as a baseline in order to do something, then you would always fail and you would always give up, because there's probably always someone who's smarter, who's better, who's faster, whatever, right? And especially bodybuilding. Just take the name itself. And I come from it from this perspective that bodybuilding has changed my life completely. Right? And I think it's about the journey, as cheesy as it sounds. And this is also something that you've talked about, and I think that we touched on it just slightly the last time, that the retention rate of people staying in bodybuilding is super low. If you made it more than 5 years, I think that you are already one of the OGs, right? And I'm at a point where I just love this, and I don't need any kind of external validation or results in order to continue doing this.
Pascal, you're simply not working hard enough. If you work hard enough, you can achieve anything in life.
After those last 4 weeks, I don't want to hear anything like that.
It's so funny. I completely agree. And it's just, what a flaw. Unfortunately for that individual, if they go through life not doing anything unless they're going to be the best, they do nothing.
To be fair, though, he came from it from a very, very reasonable perspective. Okay. And the way that he approached it wasn't like in an offensive manner, but he communicated it very reasonably. Like, okay, I don't understand why someone would be doing this. Can you explain it to me? Because I would very much like to know why someone would be doing this. And then we had a little bit of a back and forth, and it was very reasonably communicated, and not just like, what the fuck are you doing this? You look awful. Such as like, some people are doing.
It's like, I don't know, you just think a lot of people play football because they enjoy playing football. They're not going to be in the Premier League. It's just fun. And
absolutely.
For us, this is our fun. So I completely see that. And I wanted to bring up as well, you talked about the front double bicep being a strong shot. I can agree. Your front shots are looking much better than what the off season would have alluded to, which is funny because I'm almost not the opposite, but my front double bicep in my off season actually looks fairly reasonable. Whereas when I diet down, it's one of my weakest poses, which I'm tweaking for this weekend to see if I can make it better and kind of get away with some hip shifting and twisting and contortion for stage. But that's really cool that, this is what it gives you, like a clean canvas. You really get to see a clear picture of what's strong, what's weak, what do I need to work on? And again, another benefit to getting to this point. That's really cool.
And of course, I take a look at it from this perspective now where I'm just like, it's a little bit unfortunate that it's then over already, because I'm now in the groove of things and I pushed it for a short period of time. I'm now on a point where I still feel reasonably good for how hard I needed to push over the past 4 weeks. And I know that I could push way further. Hence why it's a little bit unfortunate now that it already ends. But as we already discussed, when I started the dieting phase and at the beginning of summertime, like when I came out of the sickness and all that kind of stuff, we even communicated that here on the Improving Season podcast, that for me, it wasn't even an option to compete this year. So I made that decision back then. I stood by it. I wasn't ready physically and mentally speaking back then to really commit to a prep. And here we are now. It's the result of that. Hence why I shouldn't be sad about it, that I couldn't really push for more, because you can take a look at it from a negative perspective of be like, oh shit, this is fucked up. Now I missed my chance. Or take a look at it from this perspective of like, hey, I've gained so much experience now. I know that I'm feeling quite good still with that body fat percentage. And I know that for the next time, if I really then commit to something like this and plan things out, I can get way leaner and bring an even better conditioning. And that is, I think, very empowering, and it really motivates me going now then once again into a little bit of an off season. and then push for the next time. It really motivates me. I think that I've hardly ever been as motivated to continue pursuing the bodybuilding journey as I am right now.
Hi guys, Steve here. Just wanted to take a moment of your time to remind you of the Revive Stronger member site. Inside you'll find a thriving forum, a growing exercise library, presentations, research reviews and courses. If you want to get involved, sign up via the description.
I think this is where the question of, do you think if you for 10 years did bodybuilding but didn't compete, would you be bigger than the other person who did bodybuilding but did compete? And on paper, yeah, you think you should be, because you're dipping into body fat zones where it's unproductive. You're even potentially losing muscle mass. You're certainly not gaining it. You're in an unproductive time. But I think the competitor and getting your feet wet semi-regularly is almost imperative to keeping that fire somewhat lit. Although it's all habitual, it's like we don't rely upon motivation and all of that. There's elements of just, like you said, you reveal strong or weak points. It just ignites a little bit of something in you to really pushing you and giving you your all. And you get that like comp prep discipline into your off season for another period of time. There's just something to it. So yeah, I completely see where you're coming from. And I'm just so glad that it's happening for you. And I think this needed to happen this way around, like where it just kind of sprung upon you like an opportunity because you were just living the bodybuilding lifestyle. And then you decided, right, actually, if I give this a go, it could all work out. And I mean, the cards all kind of fell in your favor in that sense, where like travel opened up, you've had a good run of health, and training's been all right. The team's going to be there. So it's like an opportunity to be there for the team. And it's exciting because it's the first UK WNBF as well. So that's like history in the making too.
I mean, if you're listening to this, then everything is over. But I really do hope that I'm staying injury-free and also staying healthy now for the next couple of days, because Tony, my youngest son, he's now starting in his new kindergarten. Long story short, you don't need to know the backstory behind it, why that is the case, but it's the first week there. And normally, every parent can relate to that. When they are in a new environment with a lot of other kids, they are getting sick. And then you are getting sick as well. And I really do hope that for this week, I'm staying like healthy and injury-free. And also, and nothing happens in regards to the C virus thing, because right now the cases are spiking big time. And UK is now on the red list here in Germany.
Oh.
I really do hope.
Travel has it though. It's a bit too... hopefully they don't change anything that acutely. Touch wood. I'm touching wood. Yeah.
And I really do hope that they aren't changing anything leading up to the weekend or so, where I wouldn't have the opportunity to get easily back again or anything alike, because then I wouldn't do this, to be very honest, because I don't want to be away from my family, and I can't be away from my family for like more than these days that I'm actually in the UK, because Katie can't handle everything by herself. She needs to work as well and stuff, right? So everything can happen afterwards, after the 31st, in my opinion. I can get sick. Give me an injury or so. But please, up until this point, just now let it happen, because I'm now there, right? And I would now really hate it if it's not going to happen.
Agreed. I had a question in terms of, because you brought up injuries. One question I wanted to have, over the 4 weeks you've been digging, how has training performance been? And then the next question after that is, what are you doing this week with your training leading into the weekend?
Yeah, training, of course, in the first initial weeks, it's like a mini cut. In the first initial weeks, you don't really see that much of a dip in performance, right? Often it's just like a mental thing, to be honest. Before then, the physiology kind of catches up, because it just lacks a lot of the energy resources. But now in week number 3.5, the performance is starting to decline. I can still very much hold on to it, but it is a challenge, that's for sure. I mean, if you're consuming 30 to 1,500 calories with my size, it's not a lot, and the body has to just like save up some energy somewhere. And then the motor units and all that kind of stuff, they won't really fire as efficiently anymore. And also my sleep is now starting to be very much impacted. I've started to feel it over the past 2 to 3 days when I always got up at around 4 a.m. in the morning and I couldn't really fall back to sleep. And that then, of course, directly carries over to the training performance as well. But it's not that it just took a nosedive or so. It's still reasonable, to be honest. And
that's good.
It's just for a temporary amount of time. This was a calculated decision of mine. That was also something that I was willing to take, a potential dip in performance in order to make it. And here we are now. It didn't really dip significantly, and it's just a couple of more days. And now here this week, because of the peak week, it's a little bit different as to how I would usually do a peak week. So up until today, I still did normal training. Today, though, was the last official training session for me on that Wednesday. And that was a leg session. And that leg session, I already started to taper down the compound lifts a little bit more so. So the intensity on the compound lifts I reduced to save a little bit of fatigue accumulation, or save myself from fatigue accumulation, but still wanted to give it a little bit more of a push. Now tomorrow then, on that Thursday, I'm going to take a rest day, and then Friday and Saturday, I'm doing a full body pump session. Because I'm doing somewhat of a backloading, it's not a rapid backloading or so, right? Because I don't think that I'm lean enough to see the benefits of an approach like this, but it's more like a conservative backload where I'm loading myself up for 2 days. And then on those 2 days, I try to make sure that, of course, the glycogen that I'm consuming is being stored in the muscle cells, of course. And that's why I also then am training in the midst of the day instead of early in the morning. So if I'm now, or when I'm now getting up on Friday morning, normally I would immediately go having a whey shake, having coffee, go to do my training session, but without any kind of carbohydrates, which would defeat the purpose to some extent. You would still, of course, consume carbohydrates afterwards, take them up afterwards, but I want to go in there with carbohydrates already in my system, and then once again get some more carbohydrates after the session in as well. And once again, I'm then loading up. The load in it for itself will also there be a little bit more conservative, simply because I haven't had any kind of loading or carbohydrates in a very long time now. I don't think that I'm lean enough to really reap the rewards of an aggressive peak. I think that too many people think, this is something that we've brought up so often already, that think, all right, peak week is that magical week where I'm now going from fat or looking flat and soft to looking absolutely diced and incredible. And there will be definitely a change, especially when you only consume like 70 grams of carbohydrates on a daily basis for like 4 weeks straight. But I just increase it to around 400 grams of carbohydrates, trying to keep protein and fats at a moderate intake, going to bump up my sodium and water as well, because it's like Cliff Wilson once said.
You'll be thirsty, man.
Yeah. It's not only that, but also carbohydrates follow water, right? And that's why I'm going to bump up my water intake. Over the past weeks now, I've tracked my water and sodium intake, which always has been at around 4 liters per day of water and around 2,000 milligrams of sodium. I'm going to bump it up to around 6 liters of water, probably somewhere around 3,500 to 4,000 milligrams of sodium, and then the 400 grams of carbohydrates, which should fill me out decently, which also then makes me a little bit more vascular. And then Sunday comes around, and then eating into the show, and that's basically the plan.
When you told me your sodium intake, I was like, oh, that seems low. And then I kind of thought about it. I was like, well, it's because of what you're eating. Because if I was eating that amount, like, how would I get my sodium intake up higher apart from if I was eating pickled veg? Because there's a lot of salt to be...
I'm already salting everything at the moment, and quite aggressively. But this is all I can get in, because basically it just consists of vegetables and a lean source of meat or so. Yeah.
Because my sodium on my loading days is like almost getting up to like 8,000 milligrams on my load days. But that's like 500-600 grams of carbs, and I'm coming from a baseline of much more sodium than you.
Yeah.
But it's funny, I almost, because your number, I was thinking about this, per 100 grams of carbs, it almost follows like 100 grams of carbs, 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 1 liter. So like you go to 300 grams, all of that multiplies as well. Your numbers work like that. Mine almost work like that as well. It's quite interesting to see that pattern is kind of coming.
Yeah.
But like it's the key you talked about there is you've been tracking and you're just bumping up moderately from a baseline. Yeah. That's the thing people fuck up and they get so confused with it all. So I'm glad you said that.
And it's like you just mentioned that your baseline level of sodium is normally also much, much higher. And that's why you're going all the way up to 8,000 milligrams. And it would be foolish for me to pump it up to 8,000 milligrams or so.
Yeah, you have no idea what's going to happen.
And that's why I also just think, okay, why am I doing a peak week? It's not to be aggressive. It's not to be like going from looking terrible to looking absolutely amazing. I rather want to be just like a little bit fuller than I am now, rather than like risk anything. Because why? What would I have from now being aggressive? Nothing. I look decent now, right? And if I can improve it and enhance my physique at the moment to some extent, great.
Yeah, I completely agree. It would, especially because you haven't even had refeeds to like practice or anything. So by going like semi-assertively on your first day, you have a whole day to like a cleanup day if you needed it to be, or you can repeat, or you can go a little bit more. That's what I like, especially because I've had a client recently, Charlie, who competed at a show, and he'd been digging like you. It's like, we haven't really had refeeds, we haven't really had high days, so we just did a very similar approach to what you're actually doing here. Yeah. Just did a small bump, see how things are, another small bump. He filled out really nicely. Like, just when you've been on low carbs for ages, you don't need that much because the body can't really metabolize that much at this point either. So
exactly.
How's the weight looking? What's your body weight looking like?
It's behaving very weirdly over the past couple of days. Very weirdly. So last week it was kind of stuck at around 73. Nothing really happened. Only like a change of 0.38% of body weight lost the last week, even though that before there was always like 1%. And now the past 3 days, it was like on Monday, it was 73.3. Then on Tuesday, it was 72.2. And now here in the morning, it was, again, 73.2. But both on Monday and here today, I had, and sorry for the information, I had like a major dump, like after the weigh-ins. It was that type of dump where you can't even hold it in anymore because it was just crashing.
Certainly, you've been storing this up over the past days.
And I could also feel that I'm not adding too many vegetables. Also, I'm very careful not to overdo things. But I could feel that now, even the lunch that when I'm cooking something, it may be already too much for my digestion at the moment.
Yeah.
Which then leads me to feel a little bit more bloated, not gassy, but just like bloated, as if my digestive system doesn't really digest anything at all anymore. And then the next morning, boom,
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, where in previous preps, I just pushed through it. Like if a meal made me feel full but bloated, I'm just like, that's fine. This time around, I was just like, it's not worth it. If I breach a certain fiber amount, or if I eat too many raw veggies in a salad, like it's just not worth it. Just cook it a little bit at least. Like it will digest way better.
What about your, so the last time, did we talk about then? Oh yeah, it was right before then the Improving Season podcast with the aubergine, right?
Maybe, yeah, it might have been.
Yeah.
So yeah, what did I do? I think, I don't know what it was.
Well, right?
It was like a combination of the aubergine. I ate an aubergine, boiled it, so it was soft, but it tasted a bit sour. But I salted everything so much that I wasn't completely sure. So it might have been that the aubergine was off, but it also could have been because I think I ate probably 300 grams or so of raw mushrooms that day. And so I made sure not to eat anything gone off, and I made sure to just at least partially boil my mushrooms, and I digested everything fine for the rest of the week. Yeah. So yeah, that was good. But it's so interesting at this point with the scale, because my scale weight this week has been less, and staying less than last week, despite being on over 1,000 calories more the past days, drinking more, having more salt. And it's all just like food bulk and potentially water retention as well. It's just so interesting when you and I know you've had this before where scale weight doesn't always go down, because maybe you actually manipulate your food volume so much that you're eating more total food volume.
And this is exactly what happened, right? So on Sunday, I ate that typical meal that I'm cooking that I didn't really digest that well. On Monday, I didn't do this. Hence, probably the correlation with then the super low weigh-in of 72.2. And then on Tuesday, again, so yesterday, I've cooked it again. And voila, here in the morning, I weighed in at 73.2 once again. And I'm very, very interested to see what it will look like now over the next couple of days once I'm loading up, whether the digestion now immediately turns on and then I have a big flush in scale weight. But in the end, it doesn't. I'm at a point where it doesn't really matter that much anymore what the scale says, because I know that I'm in an aggressive deficit. I know that I'm shedding off some fat. The details are now starting to pop out more, so it doesn't really matter of what the scale weight is saying, whether it stays at around 73. It's more like an ego thing where it's I would love to actually be below 70 kilograms or so, right?
And sometimes it can give you some insights into loading, but I think particularly when you're doing your kind of a bit more of a backload, you just have less time to assess it, so you don't know. Whereas when you're doing a progressive load through the week, it might trend and I might be able to identify something, but at your point, really not.
What's good though is, Steve, because we always estimated my stage weight to be at around 69 kilograms. And I would still say that this is probably true, because I would see myself now more at around 72-ish. I think that the one low weigh-in was way more reflective of that, because I had several weigh-ins in the low to mid 72s, and now all of a sudden then it jumped up and was sticking at around 73. And then those additional 3 kilograms will probably be those kilograms that I would have to lose in order to really be stage ready.
And I guess that's your depleted stage ready weight.
Yeah.
So around 70 kilos. I see that. I'm very excited to see you in person, because it's one thing seeing photos and images, but then seeing you under lighting and getting a full assessment.
I hope that I don't disappoint you and the same people.
I hope I just show you my quads and you're like, holy fuck.
I mean, today was the first day that I took my camera with me again to the gym. The first time in a very, very long time. And it's just something completely different to see yourself under unnetty lighting and also a little bit pumped up. I was very pleasantly surprised how much my physique has changed over the past couple of weeks now, ever since I pushed, and how much of a shape I've now revealed. Before that, it was very unfavorable, and this kind of also there gives me once again confidence. Of course, I'm not the greatest bodybuilder or anything alike, but it definitely improved my confidence in myself when it comes to this.
Good. And I guess for the listeners, you're doing novice.
Yeah.
So
7 other competitors there. So, and I have no idea who will show up.
Novice is such a joker.
Yeah. Thing is though that it's so we're coming close to the end of the season. So probably I would very much assume that people are looking good.
Or they're looking drawn out and awful.
Or something like this. Yeah. But also there, I wish that I would have been at my position right now at the beginning of the season. So kind of at around August, September time, because then I probably would have been a little bit competitive even. Now, this time, I don't think that this is the case, but I have no idea what novices show up. Honestly, no idea.
I know I've got in the medium height class, Hey, this is weird. I measured myself at home and I was 178 centimeters, and that's 5'10". I got a DEXA scan yesterday. He measured me. He said I was 175.5 centimeters. I was like, that's wrong. But anyway, I'm in the medium class. So I don't know why I brought that up, really. So I know I've got 6 guys in my class, which is decent. But that means, like, I guess it might be the same for you as a novice. I think they split you in 2. So I think they have like 4 of you, and then they have 4 of you again on the stage, because I've been at the Crescent Theatre and it's not a huge stage. Whereas with 6 of us, they might actually just keep all 6 of us.
Could be, yeah.
Or I imagine it's going to be super tight between the top 3, and they're going to work the shit out of us. That's what I see. And then it's like we said the last time, when it's like top 5 placement, the one who needs to go, oh boy, it's going to be a slap on the face. Oh dear, yeah. So yeah, they might do a top. Yeah, it's going to be a top 5 normally, isn't it? So we'll see. And then they're even giving out pro cards, but it's like, to get a pro card as a bodybuilder, you have to go and win the overall. Oh. That's going to be tough. I know there's 5 short guys, and then I think there's actually 7 tall. Normally the tall class isn't that big, but it's the biggest open bodybuilding class. So yeah, it's going to be, I think it's going to be pretty competitive. It's just, you don't know, because it's a new federation, isn't it? So with the other federations, you kind of know who competes in them. Yeah. Novice is always a bit like, who knows? But with the WNBF, I don't know. They have such a different appeal, and they're reaching different social media, like people on social media. And I just have a feeling it's going to bring an interesting bag. And I think Jose Z, has got a competitor. I don't know what class he's doing though, but he looked pretty decent from what I gathered. Neither do I have an idea of what kind of weight class he is. Maybe he's doing novice as well. He might be. Yeah. Then we'll just see where things go. It's a shame we couldn't get a class together just to be up there. But it's going to be a fun, an exciting weekend. Yeah, I was asking Andrew, but this time they are not allowing for cross competing, which is totally understandable, I think, for the first show. But it would have been cool to be on the same stage, even though that I wouldn't stand a chance against like your class or you or so, but it would have been just like for being there together. Yeah.
Hey, Pascal here. I just quickly wanted to remind you of our online coaching service. At Revive Stronger, we put a huge emphasis on the personal aspect of our coaching. And if you want to take your physique and knowledge to the next level, hit the link in the description below. And you do that most muscular off. I just have it in my head where we'll be like head to head doing this.
Most muscular is my worst pose, actually. So. From the side, you can't really see anything from the side anyway. It's such a strange one, actually. I don't know if there's anything particularly to cover. My peak week's looking very similar to the one that I just did with the UKDFBA. We've already reflected upon the UKDFBA, and all I did since then was dig, and it was a hard week for me. You talked about not feeling too bad. I felt really shit at the end of the week. Okay. The weekend was pretty awful. I'm not going to lie. Like, in what sense? The irritability I felt was unbearable. Towards Ada. Ada got the brunt of it. It was really bad. It's uncontrollable, where it's just like, I have like almost psychotic thoughts through my head where I want to like throw her across the room. And like, she's like walking next to me and I just want to like nudge her out the way. It's really like, I don't do it obviously because I'm not a horrible human, but it's such a strange, like, why am I getting aggressive? It's like I don't know. And she pesters me for food and things, and there might be a bit of food protection going on from my end. I still give her nibbles. I'm not heartless. I've been doing that still, partly because I'm like, I did it at the start of prep. I have to keep doing it because otherwise I'm eating more than I should be. But yeah, it just got, irritability was at all-time high. And then kind of a food focus. You spoke about it to me where it wasn't the fact that I'm like physiologically hungry. I'm not like, my stomach isn't grumbling and things like this, but I'm just constantly like, what am I eating next? What am I going to have? And I just, I eat a meal and I eat it as slow as I can, try and enjoy every little bite. And it was just challenging because it was just after, what did I do before that? So my average calories were like 2,800.
And then I brought them down to like an average of like 2,600 with refeeds. And then this week was like, or 2,500, somewhere around there. And then this week was under 2,000 for the whole week, for 10 days, basically. So it was a big relative drop, which I knew I could handle for a week. But I think I said to you, I was like, I'm not sure I could keep this going. Maybe with intermittent refeeds though, because to be honest, something I will say about refeeds is like, once you have even just one day of more carbs, even just a couple of meals of more carbs, like you'll feel it immediately, I think. A lot of it's going to be just psychological, like physiologically, you haven't even like digested and assimilated it for it to do anything. But that physiological, kind of psychological, had a real physiological response in me, in that I felt more comfortable, less stressed, more energetic, less irritable, more empathetic, like all those things. And it's increasing through this week already. So yeah, that was my week.
On that note, right, that's probably also one of the reasons why I'm not going into like a recovery diet afterwards immediately, but I'm trying to first and foremost be at around maintenance, simply because I think that the negative adaptations that I'm now experiencing are mostly, I wouldn't say solely, but mostly due to the low calories that I'm consuming at the moment. And I think that once I'm bumping up the calories to around maintenance, I will probably still feel much, much better very, very quickly, because in it for itself, I don't feel bad. Right? And I think that this is just because I'm on such poverty macros at the moment. And this is something that I want to see for myself. How am I reacting? How am I feeling when I'm just bumping it up, staying at around maintenance, and then, yeah, just get a sense for like how am I reacting to that kind of state that I'm in with feeding myself well.
That for me is the key. That's how you truly, just like in the gym, we talk about auto-regulating volume via like feedback, how you're performing, how's the pump, how's the disruption. Same with you in a recovery phase. If you're feeling good, your libido is pretty decent, you're not food focused, you've got good energy, you're performing well, and performance is increasing from a good baseline of like off-season, close to off-season numbers, why rush the body fat process? Because you don't need to in that case.
No.
So that'll be interesting. And because, like you said, you haven't necessarily dug yourself into the deepest hole.
Exactly.
You might be in quite a decent position to just be like, oh, I don't need like a recovery diet. I just need like maybe a slightly assertive mass and then slow down.
And for me right now, I'm just curious to see whether I'm able to, or whether I'm someone who is able to maintain kind of that lower body fat percentage. Because once again, not to give a false impression on people or saying like I'm trying desperately to hold on to a level of leanness that is unsustainable, but I don't think that I'm that lean where it's like, I don't know, super, super psychologically and physiologically challenging. Yeah. Right now, I'm experiencing some symptoms, but they first really crept in over the past 1 to 2 weeks. Before that, of course, there were some signs of dieting, but this is also due to the length of the diet and because you are in a caloric deficit. And of course, there's also a slight correlation with body fat percentage and then the way that you feel. But honestly, I think, and this is not trying to convince myself in believing that, but I think that when I'm bringing up those calories, a lot of those negative adaptations will dissipate very quickly. And I feel good in the state that I'm at right now. And if not, then I can still increase those calories slightly.
Yeah. It's kind of like an energy availability thing. Because when you can be lean, but if you're on maintenance calories or a slight or a moderate surplus, you've got energy availability. So it just gives your body more resources to do things. So maybe you can maintain a leaner body fat, whereas I think people think they can't, but it's because you're lean and you're in a bigger deficit. Yeah. Maybe if you weren't so in such a big deficit, because I find these things pick up through peak week, through a diet break, like my libido picks back up because I've just got more energy availability to think about those things. Whereas before I'm just so focused and so stressed that it just doesn't come into my mind. So it's not necessarily body fat related all the time. And
I've seen a couple of competitors that already like plan the post-show period with already having bought a lot of junk in bulk. And so that was,
never
to me, never an option. Like, I don't even find it appealing. When I'm taking a look at the pictures, it's not even that I think, oh, God, yes. Oh, M&Ms. Oh, give me all the M&Ms. I don't really... So I'm very much looking forward in having a salmon afterwards and also some oats. This is what I'm looking forward to. And this definitely then fits my macros afterwards.
It's a great point because I've done 3 shows now. Imagine if I had a post-show quote unquote binge after every single one of those. I haven't done that once. I've just stuck to my numbers. I think that can sometimes throw competitors off and for a loop, not just for one day, but days, because you consider the food palatability index and what it could do to scale weight, what mind games that's going to play, the bloating you're going to feel, the water retention, and how stressed you are. That could throw someone off for a week that they've now lost. So, yeah, it's not fun when you do that.
No, absolutely not. And yeah, once again, this just... I don't know if I had been there like a couple of years ago. Once again, maybe this speaks for a development and a personal development and being a little bit more mature now once again. And also, of course, more knowledgeable and experienced, because I know that all the other options wouldn't give me anything that really satisfies me over the long term. Especially, I was talking about feeling highly motivated now about bodybuilding. I think it's the highest ever. And why would I then destroy what I've worked for now and destroy maybe some of the progress that I can have after the show with a short-term gratification? Something like this never really made sense to me. Like justifying binging or so with taking a break, or you just needed a break for a moment. From what? From the things that I love? With things that make me feel terrible about myself in the long term? Doesn't really strike me as a good exchange, to be honest.
I think that post-show kind of cheat is glorified to the point of which it's almost more rewarding to people than the trophy that they're potentially putting themselves out there for, or the photos, or the experience. And they're looking forward to that more than they are the show day in itself. And you think fast, we haven't mentioned that element once. And I think it's partly because potentially this is an old school mentality where people really restricted, they're 100% bodybuilding, chicken, rice and broccoli, whatever. And then off season was also very similar to that. So, or they sometimes have cheat meals. And so it's just one of those. Whereas we're coming from like an evidence-based background where in our off seasons, we're flexible, we allow meals out, we plan for them with their macros, with a much more mature idea around food and how there's not good and bad food. Certain foods aren't off limits. So when it comes around, it's like, yeah, maybe I'll boost my calories up. Maybe I'll have a few of those meals. But it's, for me, having something like, to be very honest, like I could really like to sit down and have a Domino's, but it isn't so much the fact it's Domino's. It's like having a Friday night, just switching off with Charlotte, both having a takeaway, sitting down, watching TV, and me not thinking about, I don't know, bodybuilding for a bit and having my salad and my veggies. It isn't necessarily surrounding just the food. The food's great. Like I will enjoy Domino's, but I don't need to have a Domino's, Ben and Jerry's, like cookies. Like that is just, that's not what I'm wanting.
Maybe it's also because some people, and not just maybe, I very much believe that they are building up the hype around it about the day when the day comes. They glorify it. They prepare for it in a sense that doesn't really or isn't really productive. And to me, yeah, I'm looking forward to eating a little bit more or higher calories, but I will not really change that much because what it is that I'm eating right now, the structure of the meal, even though that it's poverty macros, and I could imagine, of course, having a little bit more variety at the moment, it's not that I wouldn't eat this way moving forward. I'm probably still doing my chicken breast, for example, with some cucumber salad, because I honestly, and I know this sounds fucked up to some ears, but I very much enjoy that, what I'm eating. And this, with a little bit added calories coming from higher calorically dense foods, such as adding some rice, for example, adding some potatoes, is something that I'm looking forward to, but it's not that I'm craving it. Where I'm not thinking about it the entire time, where it just occupies my mind the entirety of the day, where it's like, oh shit, I'm looking so much forward to actually having finally 300 grams of rice.
You're probably like me, where you're more looking forward to the sense of relief it kind of gives you, and the energy it gives you back, and the drop in irritability, the cortisol drop, and how it's going to reflect in your physique and your look. Because that's what I was really looking forward to this week. I'm not necessarily looking forward to the food. I'm looking forward to what that food's going to do for my body this week.
No, absolutely. And the thing is, also here comes the experience and knowledge into play, because I know that I'm not going to change the volume that I'm eating drastically. I know that the things that I'm eating are the things that I'm probably going to eat continuing after the show with slight modifications. I think that these two things, right, having a very similar meal structure and very similar volume of food, is a very powerful strategy after the show to stay on track and to not binge and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Especially for someone like you, who you haven't had the opportunity to have like practice maintenance, like refeeds and diet breaks. But if you've had those, and I guess this peak in itself for you, the couple of days, is a bit of a practice at maintenance, but you're so focused on the fact that this is storing glycogen and all of this that it's not really a thing for you. So I think keeping your structure is great, and you can lead. And like you said, you're going to have some flexibility. I'm sure you want to take Katie out for a slap up meal and enjoy that time with her. Enjoy, wine if you drink or what have you. But
on the Wednesday when I'm coming back, we are going to order sushi.
Yeah, exactly. Like something like that, I guess it's just priceless to be able to have that. And it's not necessarily you need the sushi to do that. No. It's just the fact you can relax and do that with her, and you have food, which gives you energy availability, which makes you less stressed, and you don't have to be like, sorry, Katie, you have to have the sushi. I'm going to order just like a piece of salmon.
And I would still, the thing is that it's going to be kind of untracked.
Yeah.
But I've built years of experience to know what I'm ordering, what I've also ordered always before, and hence I kind of know what I'm still consuming afterwards. And I'm not just like, all right, I deserve this, so let's just go for all of the sushi there is and make an order of around 50 euros just for yourself. That's not going to happen. I will order a reasonably sized portion of sushi, which I would also then eat if I were in an off season or so.
Yeah.
And once again, I think that this is years of us having built and worked towards that point now where we are capable of doing it. And I know that many, many people who are also right now listening to this are not in that position and are struggling big time and are going through maybe the things that we have kind of talked about that we aren't going to do. And don't feel guilty or ashamed about these kind of things, but also know this, that you can get to where we are right now.
Just takes work, I think. Unfortunately, for some people, they enjoy that kind of binge and purge and they enjoy that relationship, but they don't really. In the short term, they enjoy it, but in the long term, it just causes lots of grief. It's like lots of things within nutrition, but it does take work, and you've really worked at it. And I've almost had to work the other way at it in some ways because I was almost too far one way. Almost like the bro mentality, but I never quite binged. So yeah, it's nice when you're there and have like quote unquote like a low stress relationship with food, which maybe you call a good relationship with food. I'm excited for it. I'm not really sure what I'm doing after. I'm not going out for a big old meal or anything, but because I have the Two Bros show the next weekend after, and I actually don't know how I'm approaching that next week. I don't know if I'm going to want to train hard and like push, but I don't even know if I should. It depends also if I qualify for Worlds. That would be the main thing. I say when I qualify for Worlds. I never like to say that sort of thing. I'm just like, what will be, we'll see. Absolutely. It's a dream, and let's make that dream come true. Wish me good luck. or well, I guess people will be listening to this and they know.
Absolutely. Yeah, on that note, guys, thank you very much for listening. And yeah, by that time that you're listening to this, you probably have an update over on Instagram anyway, because this always comes out on a Monday. Competition is on Sunday, so latest by Monday evening, we are also then going to share our story about the last weekend. And yeah, I can't say anything else other than hopefully you enjoyed the episode. It's now time. After 4 years now, finally, Pascal is making it to stage. So,
we have to name this episode "Revive to Stage" now.
Yeah, just for that one episode.
And the same, guys. Thank you so much for, as always, just joining us on our journey and letting us be very kind of selfish and talking about our process to stage. And
absolutely,
all of your questions are super great. We're grateful for your questions and for your support. And whenever you take a photo and like tag us, we appreciate it over on Instagram and knowing that you're listening. So thank you so much. And as ever, comment, like, subscribe, help us grow as well, so that we can keep reaching more people. So we'll talk to you soon.
Cheers.
So I'm Steve Hall, founder of Revive Stronger and a coach of Revive Stronger.
My name is Pascal. I'm the co-owner of Revive Stronger and also a coach, of course.
Revive Stronger has probably been going solidly for 3 years, roughly about 3 years.
Revive Stronger, to me, it is becoming kind of my child, my foster child. It's the gathering and getting together of like-minded people.
We've been expanding the coaching team, which is helping us help more people. But each coach can only help a certain number of people.
Right now, it's all over the place. We have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, but there isn't that community aspect behind that.
And so the next step for us is developing a membership site.
So basically, we want to create a family and a community that is then benefiting from another.
A really cool community for people within our little niche is going to be a website.
They will get early access to our podcast.
You can access us, ask us questions.
The community aspect, we have a forum there. You can ask questions, but also you can log your journey.
There's also going to be courses on there.
Courses, presentations on different topics. Discount of past seminar footage. We will log our journey as well. We'll start vlogging.
We're going to have documentaries.
Our entire athletic journey. Furthermore, they get access to an exercise video library.
The exercises that we love for hypertrophy and maximizing hypertrophy, we're going to go through those in depth, telling you how to execute them.
We kept them concise and also mobile friendly so that you can watch them in between your sets.
I'm super excited to grow this community. The amount of value that we're going to be delivering is huge. And I'd love you to be part of it.
You will get so much out of that.
I'll see you inside.